London, 1750. The city reeked of gin, sewage, and shallow graves. While gentlemen discussed philosophy in warm parlors, John Hunter stalked the freezing alleys of Leicester Square. He did not care for abstract theories or ancient Latin texts. He demanded raw flesh, blood on his thumbs, bone beneath his fingernails. To understand life, this unlettered Scotsman decided he had to rip open the dead before the worms could claim them. But the earth would not yield its secrets so easily. Hunter was no refined physician. He was an executioner of ignorance, armed with a scalpel and an endless appetite for cold flesh. Medical schools relied on dogma, but Hunter trusted only the blade. Every night his dissecting room swallowed fresh corpses smuggled straight from the gallows. He stripped away skin, mapped severed nerves, and measured decaying organs with absolute terrifying precision. Yet London's gallows could not satisfy a hunger this deep for long. The legal supply of condemned murderers was dry. Hunter needed more flesh, more pathology, more horror to feed his growing museum of human ruin. So he turned to the shadows of the underworld. He allied himself with the resurrection and ruthless grave robbers who dug through frozen mud by candlelight. Together they turned London's churchyards into a butcher's shop, dragging fresh soil off quiet coffins. The living walked above, totally blind to the harvest below. Pauper graves yielded countless rotting specimens. But Hunter's obsession demanded abnormal anatomy. Giants, dwarfs, deformed limbs, syphilitic skulls eaten away by disease. He mapped the human body not as a sacred temple, but as a battlefield of flesh and rot. In the dim light of his private laboratory, jars of formaldehyde began filling the shelves like trophies of a war against mortality. But one target would soon drive him to the absolute brink of madness. Charles Byrne stood over 7 feet tall, the famous Irish giant. The public saw a lucrative spectacle, but Hunter saw only a magnificent skeleton waiting to be harvested. Byrne knew the ruthless anatomist was stalking him from the shadows, counting his dying breaths. Terrified, the giant paid fishermen to sink his body into the deep ocean upon his death. But no ocean was deep enough to protect a corpse from John Hunter's relentless, agonizing obsession. In 1783, Byrne died, gasping for air and consumed by alcohol. The giant's friends guarded the heavy wooden coffin, bound for the Irish Sea, but Hunter's pockets ran deep with dirty gold. He bribed an undertaker with 500 pounds, a fortune forged in shadows. In a dark barn under the cover of night, the lid was pried open. The giant was stripped, swapped for heavy rocks, and dragged into Hunter's boiling copper cauldron before the sun could even rise. The giant's flesh melted away, leaving behind a monumental white frame of bone. Hunter had his ultimate prize, locked behind heavy iron doors, hidden from the horrified eyes of London society. But stealing bones was only the surface of his heresy. Hunter wanted to master the living spark itself. He began grafting human teeth into the combs of living roosters, watching tissue fuse in bloody, impossible ways. He was bending the rules of nature to his iron will. Without anesthesia, surgery in the 18th century was pure, terrifying butchery. Surgeons rushed through screams, severing limbs in under 3 minutes, while assistants held down thrashing patients. Most victims died of shock, or the unseen poison rising from filthy sponges and unwashed saws. Hunter saw this carnage and sought control. He observed how vessels healed, how inflammation fought disease, turning chaotic violence into an exact, calculated science. To prove his radical theories on venereal disease, Hunter committed the ultimate act of scientific madness. He took a lancet dipped in pus from a syphilitic patient and drove the cold steel directly into his own flesh. He tracked the slow, agonizing decay of his own tissue day by day, recording every ulceration with chilling detachment. He treated his own suffering body as just another corpse to dissect. But this self-inflicted poison was ticking inside him. For years, the spirochetes gnawed at Hunter's vascular system, laying the groundwork for severe angina. Yet his obsession only grew more feral. His home in Leicester Square became a morbid menagerie: stuffed monsters, pickled organs, zebra skeletons, and thousands of human body parts stacked to the ceiling. Royalty and rivals gasped at his collection, yet the medical establishment still spat on his methods. But a sudden crisis would force them to kneel. A coachman entered St. George's Hospital with a throbbing, lethal aneurysm in his knee. Standard practice was brutal: amputate the leg and pray the patient survive the agony. Hunter refused the saw. He reasoned that tying off a single artery above the swelling would force blood into smaller collateral pathways, saving both life and limb. He sliced into the trembling thigh, bound the vessel, and waited. The tumor collapsed. The coachman walked out alive. This single operation altered surgery forever, transforming mindless mutilation into a disciplined discipline of biological engineering. Yet, as his fame exploded, Hunter's body was collapsing under the weight of his own hubris. The syphilis he had injected into his blood decades earlier was silently tearing his heart apart. Violent fits of angina crippled his chest whenever his notorious temper flared. He knew a single burst of rage could snap his life in two. "My life is in the hands of any rascal who chooses to annoy and tease me," Hunter frequently warned his colleagues. Yet he refused to slow down. He slept barely 4 hours a night, spending the remaining dark hours among his 14,000 preserved specimens. Pickled fetuses, diseased lungs, and shattered jaws stared back at him from glass jars. He was a living ghost wandering a city of the dead he built himself, waiting for his own turn on the slab. On October 16, 1793, the fatal spark ignited. During a heated board meeting at St. George's Hospital, a junior colleague insulted Hunter's authority regarding student admissions. Hunter's face flushed red, his jaw tightened, and the ancient damage in his arteries struck with absolute fury. He choked back an insult, stumbled into an adjacent room, and collapsed dead onto the floorboards. The man who conquered human agony was finally claimed by his own rage. The ultimate irony awaited him in the dark. The Grand Master of Dissection, who had dragged thousands of corpses from the grave, was placed onto a wooden table for an autopsy. His own colleagues sliced open his chest, exposing an enlarged, damaged heart and rigid, ossified arteries, the permanent mark of his terrifying self-experiment. John Hunter became the final specimen in his endless study of human pathology. But his ghost would not rest easily. After his death, the immense collection of 14,000 specimens was bought by the British government and entrusted to the Royal College of Surgeons. It became the famous Hunterian Museum, a cathedral of anatomical horrors and biological wonders. Visitors walked through rows of pickled organs, whispering in hushed awe. Yet, right at the center of the exhibit, towering above the glass cases, stood the giant skeleton of Charles Byrne, stolen in the night. For over 2 centuries, Byrne's bones remained on display, fulfilling Hunter's cold, obsessive desire long after both men turned to dust. The giant's final wish to be buried at sea was ignored, sacrificed on the altar of medical progress. Medical science advanced over the piles of stolen corpses, unwashed scalpels, and desecrated graves. Hunter had laid the groundwork for modern surgery, but the foundation was drenched in dark, irredeemable human cruelty. Every modern surgical procedure, every sterile incision, every organ saved carries a faint echo of Leicester Square's dark alleys. Hunter stripped away the mystical superstitions of ancient medicine and replaced them with cold, empirical violence. He proved that to save the living, one must fearlessly mutilate the dead. But the price of this enlightenment was a complete descent into moral darkness, a pact made with resurrection men and shadowy graves. It was only in recent history, after centuries of public outcry, that Byrne's skeleton was finally removed from public display. Yet the ghost of John Hunter still haunts the corridors of modern surgery. He remains the pioneer who turned butcher shops into operating theaters, a man driven by a terrifying belief that the pursuit of knowledge excuses every sin. His legacy is etched deep into every scalpel that cuts through human flesh to save a life today. Immortalized not as a saint, but as the ultimate dark genius of medicine, John Hunter showed us what lies beneath our skin. A terrifying landscape of decay, beauty, and fragile mortality. He conquered disease by becoming its most ruthless hunter, leaving behind a map drawn in blood and miasma. Modern medicine owes its life to his obsession, but the grave robber's shovels still ring in the silence. The price of immortality has already been paid. Thank you for traveling back to this dark era with us. What part of medical history shocked you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and share it with other history lovers. This was Morbid Medicine, and we will see you in our next Dark Archive.